It's no secret that NBA players are among the most well-known and well-admired people in the world. It's not out of the question for the public to scrutinize their every move, whether it's on the court or off. As it turns out, a number of NBA players have occasionally made headlines for the wrong reasons, risking criminal fines or even jail time. Here are 12 NBA players with criminal records. Let's dive in. First up, on number 12, we got Edward Lee Johnson Jr. Edward Johnson, popularly known as Fast Eddie, was an all-star guard for the Atlanta Hawks from 1977 to 1987. He was a terrific player until his life was turned upside down when he was banned from the NBA in 1987. Eddie was found guilty of using narcotics as well as resisting arrest. Johnson began his drug use in college and continued to do so throughout his NBA career. During his professional playing career, he was charged with drug possession, writing bad checks, and car theft. He was apparently hospitalized at least twice so his manic depressive disorder could be treated. Eddie also fled two men shooting at him in a motel parking lot after what the police said was a failed drug deal. The great basketball player was arrested 100 times and spent 5 years in prison. He was convicted and found guilty of crimes against a juvenile in 2006 and sentenced to life in prison. He died on October 25, 2020, serving his sentence in Milton, Florida. Coming up on number 11, we have Javaris Creighton. The former Washington Wizards player was charged with murder in connection to an Atlanta shooting that killed a 22-year-old woman and left 4 children without a mother. Creighton was eventually traced down at John Wayne Airport, where he was checking in for a Delta Airlines flight to Atlanta. He was arrested without violence and transported to a police station in Los Angeles on suspicion of being a fugitive. The former NBA player is most known for an event that occurred in 2009 while he was a member of the Washington Wizards. Creighton and the bad-tempered Gilbert Arenas had a huge disagreement on the team's flight, which resulted in Arenas bringing 4 firearms to the locker room 2 days later, placing them in front of Creighton's locker and leaving a sign that said "Pick one." Creighton chose not to use any of Gilbert's weapons. Instead, he used his own. The league suspended them both for the season, and in January, Creighton pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor firearms crime with a probation sentence. It's heartbreaking to witness someone as gifted and athletic as Creighton struggle so much in his personal life. He had the potential to be a great NBA player, but his attitude and character concerns held him back. Following up on number 10, we have Kyle Lowry. Lowry and other NBA players participated in a game in Las Vegas where things got heated quickly. Lowry was accused of throwing a basketball at a female referee, Finney Robinson, twice and threatening her. The game's 2 male referees supported Robinson's allegation, claiming that Lowry was abusive to all of them during the game. It's inappropriate to throw the ball at any referee, but doing it to a woman made Lowry look even worse. Robinson was probably just doing her job and trying to make a modest living, but an athlete like Lowry couldn't handle what he thought were poor decisions. Well, we believe it's safe to say that the accusations were valid. Lowry was ordered to complete 100 hours of community service in addition to an impulse control management course because of the incident. Next up at number 9, we have Mookie Blaylock. Blaylock, 47, was sentenced to 15 years in prison but received a reduced sentence as part of a plea bargain. He was sentenced in 2014 for vehicular homicide and other charges. Instead of him completing his 15-year sentence, he accepted a plea bargain and was sentenced to just 3 years in prison. The charges were brought against him after he blacked out behind the wheel, causing a head-on collision. He barely survived the crash and was placed on life support as a result. Although he had no alcohol in his system at the time of the crash that killed Monica Murphy, Blaylock had a history of substance abuse and was prone to seizures as a result. For number 8, we have Sebastian Telfair. Telfair, a highly talented point guard with a dismal pro basketball career and a history of run-ins with the law, was convicted earlier of transporting a loaded handgun in his pickup truck. Telfair, who was born in Brooklyn, was drafted in the first round out of high school in 2004. He began his career with the Portland Trail Blazers and later played for the Boston Celtics, Minnesota Timberwolves, and other teams before retiring in China in 2014. Telfair and a friend were arrested in 2007 following a traffic stop where police discovered a loaded handgun in the vehicle. He pleaded guilty to criminal possession of a weapon and received a 3-year probation sentence. He was considered a basketball prodigy when he was a young player in New York City. It's sad to see players like him getting involved in crime. Let's take a look at number 7, Ruben Patterson. Ruben Patterson, a Portland Trail Blazers player who called himself a Kobe stopper, once had the difficult job of defending the Black Mamba. Surprisingly, he was found guilty in 2001 as a result of a plea agreement for the sexual assault of the family's nanny. He received a 1-year prison term as a result of the Alford plea. He was also subject to a $5,000 fine, a $400,000 civil settlement, and a number of game suspensions. Patterson insisted that he was innocent even after he consented to the arrangement. He declared, "I didn't commit a crime." Patterson was also given a 3-game suspension due to an assault conviction in Cleveland for breaking a man's his jaw. For that offense, he was given a 6-month probationary period. Up next at number 6, we have Ben Wallace. Former Detroit Pistons star Ben Wallace was arrested on Tuesday for leaving the scene of a car accident, and after pleading no contest, he was sentenced to 2 days in jail. Even though he was originally sentenced to 1 year in prison, Ben was eventually charged after authorities discovered an expired insurance card belonging to him inside the vehicle. Wallace, who remained undrafted in 1996, went on to become one of the best defensive players and rebounders in his successful career. He's best known for his time with the Detroit Pistons, but he also played for the Washington Wizards, Orlando Magic, Chicago Bulls, and Cleveland Cavaliers before returning to the Pistons to finish his career. Following up on number 5, we got Jason Kidd. Kidd, one of the best basketball players in history, was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated after crashing his 2010 Cadillac Escalade in Long Island's Hamptons. He was driving alone when he hit a telephone pole and drifted into the woods. Police arrived shortly and took him to Southampton Hospital, where he was treated for minor injuries. Jason Kidd had a great career as an NBA player. He famously led the Nets from the bottom of the league to 2 consecutive NBA Finals appearances. Kidd was also charged with spousal abuse and fined $200 in order to take anger management classes. The funny thing is that when the two divorced 6 years later, Kidd filed a restraining order against his wife, accusing her of abusing him at the time. Coming up on number 4, we have DeShawn Stevenson. Jazz rookie DeShawn Stevenson admitted to having sex with a 14-year-old girl over the phone with her mother. He was arrested and charged with statutory rape after turning himself in to the police. He was released for a bail of $5,000. Both the girls said they got drunk on alcohol served by Stevenson. The 14-year-old said she had consensual sex with Stevenson and later passed out. Stevenson was also arrested for public intoxication just 2 days after the Dallas Mavericks won their first championship in June 2011. Next up at number 3, we have Jay Vincent. Jay Vincent, a former Michigan State Spartan star who played alongside Magic Johnson, had a 9-year NBA career with an average of 15 points per game. Vincent pled guilty to mail fraud and tax evasion in 2010 and was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison. The crimes revolved around an internet scam in which over 10,000 people were charged over $2 million with the empty promise of being registered as certified home inspectors, despite the fact that none were ever hired. Vincent wrote to the judge admitting that what he did was wrong and he was willing to pay back all the people they scammed. He was released in 2016 after completing nearly 5 years of his sentence. For number 2, let's take a look at Tate George. Tate George, of the New Jersey Nets and Milwaukee Bucks, was sentenced to 9 years in prison in 2016 for his role in a Ponzi scheme that cost his victims more than $2 million. He pretended to be the CEO of a successful investment firm, the George Group, claiming that they had over $500 million in assets and would generate revenue from real estate investments. In reality, George used the money from new investors to pay the previous investors in a Ponzi scheme fashion. He lined his own pockets as well, declaring the money for home remodeling projects, food, clothing, and gas. In reality, the George Group had almost no revenue-generating operations. Lastly, at number 1, we have Ron MetaWorld Artest. The NBA League office suspended MetaWorld Peace for 7 games. Commissioner David Stern and his advisors determined that his malicious elbow to James Harden's head was an intentional act, but according to the player formerly known as Ron Artest and the many witnesses, he appeared to be celebrating his dunk when Harden got in the way. The next incident occurred in 2007 after Artest had joined the Sacramento Kings. From March of that year, Artest pleaded no contest to a spousal abuse charge. As a result of that arrest, Artest was sentenced to 100 hours of community service, a 10-day work program with the sheriff's office, and a $600 fine. That's a wrap for this video. Which player on the list surprised you the most? Let us know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and share the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. See you next time.